formed in a dream, kept in a thought, carried across oceans, spoken in whispers, passed down from elders, planted in gardens of okra, prayed for in sanctuary, resisted with fury, protected with faith, created with love, born into being, from root to bone. You are here.
This podcast talks about colonial, racial, and gender-based violence. Please listen at your own pace and capacity. And remember to do what you need to do to care for yourself if you feel activated by this content. Should you need resources, please check out our section on resources at decolonizingtherapy.com. Be well. Welcome, 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 land. Wherever you are, allow yourself a breath or two or three. Maybe in that next breath, let out a sound, a sigh, a hum, a gentle little scream, a note if you sing. Welcome to From Root to Bone podcast with me, Dr. Jen. From Root to Bone is a podcast for people who are parched, honey, poised, and primed to rehydrate our souls and do some unlearning together. It's a place where I unlock the gates and have some real-ass conversations with elders, teachers, space holders, intellectual crushes, and people doing the real-ass work towards reclaiming the juiciest and most decolonial and liberatory parts of our ancestry, our history, collective health, and our liberation practices. I'm Dr. Jen. I am lovingly known as the Rage Doctor, and I'm the founder of Decolonizing Therapy. And I am here to continue to shift the conversations on what we understand mental health to be, what we understand big emotions to be, how we understand our relationship with ourself and land as if we are different. Ha ha ha. And I'm here to sort of shift these conversations on their head with a sense, I hope, of realness, vulnerability, as well as 25 plus years of experience practicing as a clinical psychologist, community organizer, and ancestral spirit worker. The goal is for us to get to the bottom, some of the deepest shadowy parts of ourselves, of our collective soul energies, and really unclench ourselves from this dehydration of the soul that is perpetuating itself across our communities and lands. I know I say this all the time, but I don't bring anybody on here. I don't invite anyone onto this space that I am not just deeply energetically enamored with. And so before I introduce our amazing ask guest, the Dr. Jaiya John, I also want to tell you what I'm bringing to our virtual altar space today. Yeah. And so when I thought of our phenomenal guest, Dr. Jaiya John, immediately what I thought to myself is, okay, this is a person that allows me to feel rooted when I'm around them. This is a person in which I feel like I can step up into my authentic self, no matter how long or short I've known them. Dr. Jaiya John and myself have been in community, in connection, in forming of relationship, to oneself, to each other for, I would say, last couple of years. I'm so bad at time or colonial time. I would say the last couple, of years. And every time we connect, I just feel like, like there's this settling in and this expansion and this appreciation for this being whose writing, whose work, whose freaking presence, and just ability to be present is, I believe, truly a gift to many of us, a deep, deep gift. I also feel seen when I'm in Jaiya's presence, I'm in your presence. I feel seen, and little me and like ancestor me both feel like at ease and in the place and in the space. And so I have decided this is a piece that was gifted to me from one of my lineage, Kuna Indian lineage of Panama elders. This is a piece of deep medicine, and it is a mixture of quartz, tourmaline, opalite, and beloved, I don't think it was cedar. I'm blanking right now. I know I'll remember in like 30 seconds. This is part of the 40-something-year-old life, y'all. You know, but it is very deeply grounding for me, and it feels like such an energetic piece. Sometimes I put it under my left foot along with my grounding mat when I'm in doing like a speaking gig virtually or something of that nature, because it feels so deeply resonant. You know, it feels like a part of my ancestry. It is ancestor. Yeah, and so I'm going to place this onto our virtual altar for us as a representation of an energy of Jaiya too, for me. And so allow me to say that I'm going to read Dr. Jaya's bio, and then I'm going to read a selection from one of my favorites from one of his many, many books, Freedom, Medicine Words for Your Brave Revolution. Dr. Jaiya John was orphan born on ancient indigenous Anasazi and Pueblo lands in the high desert of New Mexico, and is an internationally recognized ancestral Baba, freedom worker, medicine poet, and keynote speaker. Jaiya is the founder of Soul Water Rising, a global rehumanizing mission to eradicate oppression. The mission has donated thousands of Jaiya's books in support of social healing and offers grants to displaced and vulnerable youth. He is the author of numerous books, including Daughter, Drink This Water, We Birth Freedom at Dawn, Fragrance After Rain, and Freedom, Medicine Words for Your Brave Revolution. Jaiya writes, narrates, and produces the podcast, I Will Read For You, the voice and writings of Jaiya John, and is the founder of The Gathering, a global initiative and tour reviving traditional gathering and storytelling practices to fertilize social healing and liberation. He is a former professor of social psychology at Howard University and has spoken to over 1 million people worldwide and audiences as large as several thousand. Jaiya holds doctorates and master's degrees in social psych from the University of California, Santa Cruz, where he was a National Science Foundation Fellow with a focus on intergroup and race relations. As an undergrad, he attended Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, and lived in Kathmandu, Nepal, where he studied Tibetan holistic medicine through independent research with Tibetan doctors and trekked to the base camp of Mount Everest. He is a Lewis and Clark College Distinguished Alumni Award recipient. His indigenous soul dreams of fry bread, sweetgrass, bamboo in the breeze, and Turtle Lakes, whose poetry is peace. Welcome, Dr. Jaiya John. Welcome. Now I'm going to read to you your own work. And truly, as I was telling our team members, Brenna and Tribble, I literally flipped it open and did this. And here's where I landed. And so I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to put my readers on for those of you that can't see me. Wardrobe change.
Come on, Tia. Come on, Tia.
And let me just say, I needed this. And I imagine many of us out there will need this. But I said, hey, Spirit, you're funny. This is cute. I was like, okay. Dear soul, do not let anyone idolize you. After the compliment comes the crucifixion. Whew. People create idols in their revolutions. Work earnestly to kill the weeds of idolization before they mature. Otherwise, your people will eventually kill their idols. If you are one of those idols, Your people's pain will turn on you like a wildfire. You will be their outlet for destruction when they cannot destroy their enslaver or the pain of their enslavement. I need a moment. Woof. Heroes are illusionary personas not even the hero can live up to. If your revolution lives in heroes, it will die with the fall of those heroes. Keep your revolution with the people, even if they don't feel worthy. Don't let their inner disbelief decide the revolution. Stay in the soil where things bow down each day. As soon as you become an idol to someone, you are no longer a person to them, no longer allowed to change, to grow, fail, misstep, feel, be hurt, grow tired, have needs, be fed and nurtured. Now you are an inert object to be used by the needful diversion, escapism, and vicarious imagining of the idolizer. You are held higher than it's possible to exist, flattened out of your multidimensional nature into a one-dimensional idea, a caricature. Expectations are built around you into a prison that keeps you inside ideals and fantasies. Praise is fickle. Don't sell your soul for that easy trinket. People will, with the same passion, praise you, then raise you, tear you down in a demolition of resentment and disappointment. Don't get intoxicated on the heights of praise. You will be in no condition to endure the scorn to follow. Many souls drink. Many souls drive drunk on praise only to fall asleep at the humbling wheel of reality. Stay human. Compliments that feel like a person is separating and elevating you from them are precursors to the violence many do to foreign things. Allowing people to put you on a pedestal is as self-harming as allowing them to abuse you. Stay on the ground in the rich soil of your imperfection. Touch and taste your wild roots and remain forested in grace. May all your relationships be filled with mutual honor. I'm going to say that one again. May all your relationships be filled with mutual honor. May you stay free in the way you see yourself, free in the way you exist with others, free in the way you uniquely roam with this sufficient earth. Take this lightly and you harm the revolution. Take it sacredly, and among these souls will be ones who carry forward the revolution fire. Dr. Jaiya John, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for I had tears. I have goosebumps. I feel like I needed to hear that. Like my edges were snatched and I was called in on a warm bed with my ancestors' hands all on me all at once. Thank you for being here.
Wow. Mm. Doctora. Doctora Jen. Wow. I was, as you were pouring those words back into me, I was deeply moved. Mm. Jen, do you experience, I'm sure you do, because of the way the words come through us initially are really just a spiritual experience of vesseling spirit, right?
Mm.
The words aren't really ours. And when we have them returned to us in the way you just returned them, it felt to me like I was receiving them from another author, from another presence, another spirit, another force, like I was receiving them from the land itself. And I suppose that's why I was, moved in that way. It just was very enriching and nourishing and healing for me to receive those words. And I know that, of course, they came through me also as testimony of a personal journey and my own life lessons about what happens when people elevate us. And there is the negative dehumanization dynamic that we are so vulnerable to as human beings, but we can also dehumanize each other from the way we idolize. And I've experienced that many times. In it can be deeply painful and hurtful and feel like violation and abandonment and betrayal. And when we do it to ourselves, especially. So those words were coming from an organic walking of a path and the seasoning that life tends to bring to us as we go. Thank you for pouring that back into me. Bless you and your team for holding this space with me on this day, this December the 9th of 2025. Thank you for being in ceremony with me in the sacredness of just being still and present together with our hearts and our spirits open, our souls perforated and permeable. I'm grateful. I love from root to bone. I love the poetry and language of that. Root to bone. Those are two concepts, two energies, root and bone, that are very often with me as I move through life. And it comes out in my poetry, but the rootfulness of things and the bonefulness of things. I love that as a title. And so I bless you for birthing this space, for holding this space, for gardening it, nourishing it, watering it, tending it, turning the soil, pulling the weeds, you know, bringing out the pebbles and the rocks from the soil, ensuring the sunshine is plentiful and the rain and water is plentiful, and giving it time and patience to grow, to conceive and gestate beneath the soil and sprout and spring up for the sky and become stalk and become sermon and become bloom and fruits and all of that. So for you and the team, I'm expressing that I see you, I feel you, I understand what it takes to give birth and then to sustain a living thing. And from root to bone is a living thing. And so let us pause and just allow us to be soaked and saturated in gratitude for what this really is. Bless you. Bless each of you.
Thank you.
Mm, you're welcome. De nada.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This life is wild. Yeah. It's wild.
I thank you doesn't feel, those words don't feel as potent
Mm,
sometimes, but
mm,
thank you for also that, like, the word that comes up is like incantation, that like, and I think that's one of the things, if I may, like that I see reflect, like the reflection is that, I know that when I'm doing some kind of work, it ain't just a land labor acknowledgement or like those things are great, but this is a whole like let's bring in the space, and I feel the same way sometimes in my monthly office hours. It's 30 minutes in, and I'm still
that's
naming,
right.
calling, being,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that so many of us are deeply missing ritual. No? Yeah, my brother,
That's
like deeply missing this like place and space of like this is sacred. This loss is sacred. This love is sacred. This love for this animal I have is sacred. This like that bringing the sacredness in for me is a way that it like combats gently the loneliness I sometimes feel and the
hmm
isolation. I don't know if that resonates with you.
yes, absolutely. Through my marrow, through through my cellular amniotic self, it resonates and ripples. Jen, we I'm going to the same place in this moment as you, and that is the grief of what we have lost, what
Mm,
we when I speak of the we, I speak of the human collective, but I also speak of the non-human kin, our kin.
mm,
And I speak particularly of we who have been dehumanized, marginalized, devalued, denounced, stigmatized, lied about, silenced, erased.
Mm.
We, the people, el pueblo, have experienced a violence of being sped up by this unnatural machinery of oppression and control and extraction and exploitation for centuries. We have experienced the violence of having been sped up from our divine design in terms of pace and cadence and rhythm and breathing. With that speeding up, we have lost the things that exist in slowness and stillness. We have lost ritual and ceremony. We have lost rites of passage. We have lost just the bearing of witness and the testimony, the time it takes to be still with each other and see one another bear witness, and then to testify as to our witness and to receive the testimony of being seen. We've had all of that depleted from us, siphoned from us, stolen from us, separated from us. We are unmoored from our natural pace, which would allow sacredness and divinity to flow and reign. And so, what reigns in our lives, and I mean not REIGN, but what reigns, RAIN, that's what floods us instead is the grief of losing all of this, the chaos and the unmooring, the orphaning of our soul from
Mm.
its origin point, its sipapu, its creator. We have become orphans, wandering, vagrant on the streets without guidance and teacher, without oracle and elder, without leadership on a soul level, without these paradigms and motives and intentionalities of greed and self-centeredness and conquest and hoarding, purity of leadership, leadership in the way that love leads, in the way that life leads, in the way that the sky and the trees lead. We are missing all of this. So yes, we are lonely, we are grieving, we are isolated, and we are suffocated. And so, if I may, Jen,
Please.
because you so beautifully brought to the altar your offering, which also was so honoring for me to have you bring. Thank you. Bless you. I have here an altar, and I have this hand drum which comes from my native Nuevo Mexico, La Tierra del Encantamiento. This is from the Hopi. This design is from the Hopi nation, the Hopi people, our Hopi kin. And this represents all of creation, the oceans and the seas and the lands, the stars and the universe, Sipapu, the womb place, the vaginal opening, the place of emergence for all of life. And so this is from my lands. And so this greets us. And we have I Am Turtle Clan, and this is from my lands as well. We have the tradition in the Dine Nation, the Navajo Nation, the tradition of pottery with horsehair embellishment. This is horsehair that is burnt into the design, burnt into the totem artifact. And so, because I am Turtle Clan in terms of my matrilineal lineage, I wanted to bring to the altar
Mm.
this sacred aspect of the red earth from which I come in Nuevo Mexico, the horsehair pottery. And then this is wild turkey feathers, was gifted to me some years ago. This is thunderbird,
Mm.
which is similar to Sankofa bird in African tradition. Thunderbird represents the coming of change, the heralding of change and transformation, the power of the skies and of truth. And so I wanted to bring that. And then I want to offer this being, this body for the altar and say that I am ancestral Baba. I am Baobab tree. I am the old oak. I am the sturdiness of the land that endures and remains after the rains. I am speaking in the collective I of my ancestors. I am my grandfathers and my grandmothers. I am my tias, my aunties, my uncles. I am the pueblo. I am the people somatically embodying our journey generationally through all that is beautiful and all that is horrible and still be here breathing, heart beating. So I wanted to bring the, each of us are living inside of a miracle, these bodies. These are miracles just for us to have been conceived, not to mention survived to birth and then survived to this day. So I bring all this to the altar and I say again, we have experienced the violence of being sped up. Now we are in the great remembering time of slowing down, coming back to ourselves and recalling our true nature, our original assignment, our divine persona, and the miraculous and mundane ways in which we are here in kinship with each other. Many rivers flowing, many rivers to cross. We are here.
We are here.
We are here. Mm,
Thank you for the offerings. Thank you for you, the vessel that is Jaiya, and all of the ancestors 7 generations before and after you that speak through you.
mm.
Thank you for, and the feels like very non-Christian, but like christening us, like in a non-Christian way.
Yes.
I feel like a little bit of like
I take it. Yeah,
sacred
yeah,
sacred
yeah,
river rainwater kind of,
yeah, yeah. The sacrament.
right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
as you're talking, all I keep thinking is, because I have no doubt that you feel these questions from people the same way I feel them or receive them, and maybe you receive them directly. But some of the, as you were orating, channeling, giving, you know what, blessing us as you were, giving, and I was receiving. I thought, amongst all of this grief and loneness, where can we start walking and where can we begin? Where can a person who is feeling that level of aloneness and isolation? And let me just insert here, lately, and I've been telling like Brenna and other friends this, lately I have been feeling with this alone, knowing that, oh, I have loved ones, I have this, there's land, there's so much here that I can also be grateful for in this moment, but longing for a home with a capital H that I cannot, that doesn't even feel like it belongs here. It feels like something or somewhere else, or it, and I don't even have the language for it, but there is something within me that indeed recognizes being a translator from that home space into this 3D, into this current reality and world. And I just feel like you might understand that. And so I and so I place that here and also say, for folks that are listening, I imagine you're feeling emotional. I imagine you're feeling, because that's what happens, right? When we start to like slow down and be with each other and see each other, and let ourselves feel and emote, that just we get to unfurl. Yeah, and it feels lighter. So for the folks out there that are like, man, yeah, where are my people like this? Or like, I'm feeling, alone, and I'm grieving for the things that cannot be, grieving for the pain that our children are feeling across the world, grieving for people in my life who are, no longer earthside. Where do we even start? And I know that was a really big question.
Well, it was a beautiful invitation. And I thank you. I thank you for opening the doorway into that wandering, this particular wander. We have to first open the door before we can walk through it. That there are so many doors that are closed in our world at this time, energetically, spiritually closed, psychologically, mentally closed, somatically closed, relationally closed, right? And as a result, I love your language. I'm listening to you, Jen, and what I hear your soul saying is that we feel, I feel so far away from home, so far away. There's a kind of loneliness and aloneness that occurs when we are standing just outside our home. And even that can be painful, and we're, for whatever reason, not able to enter. We're looking through the window from the outside, wanting the warmth and the familiarity of what's in there, the nourishment. But we're outside, we're on the porch, we're on the street. That alone can be painful and challenging. What it feels like we are collectively experiencing in our bodies and beings is a sense that we're not even outside our home, we are far away. The home that represents a way of being, a way of existing, a way of life feels so distant from this way of being, this condition we are in, this collective condition that feels like a maze that we cannot find our way out of. We cannot extricate ourselves from it. It's just passageways going all over the place and looping back on each other. And it's not even a maze that was created out of benevolence or love. It was a maze created out of intentional oppression, extraction, and violence and control. And greed and fear. And that maze, therefore, is not an organic thing that we can relate to and learn and have it compassionately, symbiotically work with us and showing us the way out. We're in a maze that is pathological, and it is also mutating continuously, constantly, and desperately because it wants to survive. Whether you call it supremacy or apartheid or enslavement, or you call it genocide, you could call it materialism or capitalism, you could call it a patriarchy, you could call it many things, but it is a pathological virus by nature, which means that it is trying to survive and it is mutating as quickly as we find ways. Our collective immune system for well being is just exhausted trying to find ways to address this virus and overcome it and extricate it so that we can be home again, be home in kinship, be home in our pace and rhythm, be home with the elements, the sky and the earth and the water and the sun, but it feels so far away that it can be discouraging to us and depleting to us and take the breath out of us. And as you say, the question in some ways is a simple question because you asked, how do we begin? The question linguistically is a simple one. Of course, the answer, the answer can feel overwhelming and like, wow, that's a lot of mountains to climb. Whatever that answer is, that's a lot of mountains to climb. And I'm tired already. And no one seems to know what they're doing. Can I trust myself or others to climb with me? Do we know the route? How do we find our way to the peak? Do we have enough water? Do we have enough resources at this point? Do we have willpower? Because we're suffering a complete addiction collectively as a species, addiction to comfort, addiction to numbness, addiction to the silencing of our voices, addiction to comfort, to not having to feel too much hardship because we actually are living in hardship. And so we're looking for escape routes in into comfort, more comfort, more comfort, more comfort. Can I just have some ease for once? So all of this chaos is stirring inside of our bodies and our beings. And I do as you look out and witness that we are wondering, how do we even begin? Maybe we begin with a breath and a heartbeat. Maybe we begin in the simplicity of our design, making sure that we are breathing a full breath
Mm,
and that we are breathing with our entire tangible system, bones and muscles and ligaments and tendons. We're breathing with our back and our belly, our legs and our arms, our appendages, our chest, our neck, our head. We're breathing with everything. Then we're breathing from the intangible place. We're breathing from memory and the mystic, the spirit dimension. We're breathing from ancestry. Are we really utilizing the full lung capacity of our ancestry when we breathe? And I would say the same thing, as we breathe, so follows our heartbeat. And many of us are stuck in a chronic franticness of heartbeat, which is reflective of our condition. So if we are breathing fully with the holistic totality of who we are, then we begin to heartbeat fully in a way that is calming and brings us into more efficiency with our heartbeat. We're not heart beating out of panic and crisis. We're heart beating from the place of creation itself, which is a giant heart.
mm,
So can we begin there? And you said it earlier, our breathing and our heart beating can, if we feel that we are weak in our habits or muscularity for those two practices, we can turn to ritual and ceremony as a way of, like, when we want to strengthen our bodies, we will often go to the gym, right? We know, oh, that's a place where I can go, I can get my reps in, right? I can get my reps times resistance equals results, change, right? We believe in that. We have faith in that. So we go there. We don't, I feel, have faith in our capacity for spiritual, holistic well being and healing. And so we don't go to the gyms that would allow us the repetition and the resistance, the romance of results, the
mm,
romance of seeing, oh, when I practice breathing and I practice heart beating and I do it in the context or the gym space of ritual and ceremony, outcomes occur that are positive in the direction of my prayers and my dreaming. And when I see those outcomes, it gives me hope and vitality and encouragement. It lifts me up to continue the practices. So we are not only we have been estranged from ritual and ceremony, our faith in what those things bring to our lives, our faith is weakened and could need a resuscitation. This is what Spirit is speaking through
yes.
me. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, Spirit. And I'm also hearing and receiving this sort of just seeing, and I know I say this word a lot these days, but this parchedness, like when folks talk about burnout, I'm like, no, 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 there's an energy there of like we've done something per se, or we're not doing something. And I want to offer this invitation, if I may, of like what you're saying, this like what are the soul refilling waters that we can be drinking from, and I'm hearing you say like the ritual, our practices, our breath, those that emotional, spiritual, energetic gym,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not forgetting that's also within us and that we have that capacity to recuperate
Yeah.
and to regenerate and to rejoin. Yeah, so thank you. As I'm receiving this, I'm thinking to myself all the ways that my mind and spirit continue to want more spaciousness at this time, as there's so much grief and loss and understandable rage. There's so much shame for being alive. There's so many, so many people that are deeply wounded at the thought of just like existing. Like I don't deserve to. And there's times I found myself kind of
Yeah.
this energy, this
Yeah.
cowering corner, like, oh, there's so much to fix. And then I remember that is an arm and an arrangement, right? That these principalities and energies that you were talking about before benefit from myself and others that are that have these moments, days, weeks, months, years, depending on who you are and where you are in your timeline, of feeling like I ain't shit, like I don't deserve to live because of this mistake or this thing or this this complexity. Yeah, so I just felt like, thank you.
Mm.
And in the spirit of the rehumanizing of those that are idolized, such as yourself and myself and others, whether or not we're like, hey, I didn't sign up for that, or this is interesting. What did this switch happen? Do you mind sharing, if you're open to sharing, how you've been moving through grief this year and like how grief has been moving through you? Or
Yeah.
perhaps the better is like your relationship with it and how it's showing up in your life.
Thank you, Jen. So you've blessed me and us with two invitations. One speaks to this parching, this drought, this desiccation, this thirst that we are in the condition of, and how we can satiate that, how we can hydrate. And then the other is this journey with our grief. And what does that mean right now? And I heard you in there. I heard you claiming and acknowledging and testifying to what some would call survivor's guilt. Just being alive right now with, whether you're looking at the framework of the last couple of years or longer, what are the stories and narratives that are alive in us as spirit, whispering to us or screaming at us about what it means that we are alive and we're not one of the ones who have been bombed or burned or buried or carried away violently, or those who have transitioned and changed to light from quote natural processes. But what is this feeling like to us? What is this doing to us? And how are we navigating this era, epoch, season on earth of what feels like intense grief? So there's the need for soul water with the parching, and then there's the need for a for a liberated relationship with our grief and grieving. And I'm laughing as I say that because I have this beautiful soul water right here. This, look, I mean, y'all, a human being gave birth to this. This, you have to understand, a human being in a human body, a limited human with the same 24 hours as the rest of us in a day, gave birth to a million pages of love, wailing, crying, raging, whispering, caressing, embracing, remembering. Like this is soul water. This is what I mean when I say, you know, as we experience the parching, we at the same time are the water. We are we are the soul water. We are the well in the desert. If this can come through you, Jen, and God bless you. Ancestors bless you. I mean,
Mm.
incredible. This is love. If we were not designed as love, we would not create. And we certainly would not create in this kind of way, with this kind of devotion, this kind of endurance. That it is painful to go on a journey of giving birth to something like this. And if people have not done it, they don't know the pain. They cannot imagine the pain, the isolation, the aloneness, the discipline required, the sacrifices, the things you have to say no to, even within yourself, the fear you have to overcome and move through, the doubt, the self-shaming, the imposter syndroming, all of it, the things that are necessary to bring medicine out into the world in whatever form are tremendous. And so we want to acknowledge that, Jen. We want to acknowledge that. Every single day I give thanks to souls like you who continue to choose to give birth to life. And you're welcome. You're welcome, truly. And it speaks, this devoted choice to birth. It speaks to the question of the parching and to the question of the grieving. So I grew up in the desert, and so I understand what it feels like to be parched. I also know what happens, when the land is parched, it becomes hard and it cracks. And then when the rains come, the land is not in the condition to receive the rain because it is so hardened. And so the rain, the blessing water, bounces literally off of the earth. It bounces and becomes sometimes devastating flash floods that race through arroyos, in the desert. And this is just a part of life in the desert where you understand because it so rarely rains, the land is not even in a condition to efficiently receive the rain. And that is humanity right now. Because we are parched and desiccated and dried out and hardened and cracking, often we don't know how or don't have the capacity to receive love's rainwater, to receive the rainwater of mercy and compassion and grace and kindness and gentleness and softness. We are very hard with each other online. Think about the comments in any post. You could post about rabbits or rivers or rainbows, and in the comments will be inevitably and immediately some sort of conflict will break out and people will start calling each other names and all of the toxicity begins to bleed out. Yes. So we are parched, and the parching is not insignificant, it is not superficial, it has consequence to us. How do we relieve the parching? Well, we need to be willing to be soul water so that we can pour soul water. And then we need to be willing to receive soul water. We have two needs before us. One is we need to know what our medicines are. And the other is we need to have a condition and or a willingness to take in the medicine. It has been my observation in my lifetime that, we live in an information age and we have all these reports and research, empiricism and conferences, symposia and PowerPoints and graphs and charts and empiricism and data and numerology. We have all of this cognitive information at our disposal, so we actually know what the medicines are. Even the indigenous medicines at this point, we have a cognitive knowing of our medicines, but we are not spiritually equipped in many cases to open to the medicine, receive the medicine, trust the medicine. Because if you wander up to a plant and you sit down beside the plant and you've read in a book that this plant can heal you, so you now know this up here, but your body is not living in a belief that this plant can symbiotically heal you. And so you sit down next to the plant in a spirit of fear and trepidation, and you maybe in a panicked energy pluck the plant, and maybe in a tense, tight, anxious energy, you eat the plant, you consume the plant. But the plant is saying, brother, sister, I don't even want to go into your body. You're so agitated. You don't believe in me. You don't trust me
Mm.
to do my work. And so you and I can talk about all the modalities for self-care and wellness. It's a whole industry, of course, right? And an industry that is owned and shaped, of course, by the oppressive mentalities that created the unwellness in the first place, ironically. So when we're not talking about indigenous medicine here, we're not talking about ancestral, we're talking about wellness as an industry, you know, with retreats and resorts and uninformed sweat lodges and, plant medicine as trend.
Yes.
So everything, of course, is commercialized, and that means that it is packaged and presented with a motive of earning profit, as opposed to the cultivation of a care relationship with the plants and the soil and the waters and the elements, so that they can utilize the fullness of their medicinality with us. So we can say today, oh, to quench that parching, you know, go to the stream and sit by the stream. Let your body feel the miraculous medicine of the sun, which is the actual source of energy on earth. We can eat foods, but those foods are like a dilution of the sun's sourced energy. We can drink water, but that water is a dilution of the sun's sourced energy. So, what is our relationship with the sun? Because for 500 years, we've had a colonizer telling us how to relate to the sun, to relate to the sun as an enemy, as something to fear, as something to avoid at all costs. And here we are experiencing all sort of diseases, physiological, psychological, emotional, affective, and relational and behavioral. And how much of it actually has to do with the parching that we have experienced from sunlessness or soillessness
Mm.
or stillness less. You know, I observe the behavior of living things that aren't human. I'm looking out at my garden as we speak, and I observe the behavior of the breeze and the trees and the grasses, the flowers, the plants, the bushes, the birds, the hummingbirds, the bees. I'm observing the behavior of the sky itself. And what I notice, though, these teachers are showing me that there is value and there is life in stillness. And by stillness, I don't mean the absence of motion, because if you are in the right spiritual condition, your body can be dancing, but your soul is very still. Your soul is very assured and safe. It feels safe. It feels joyful. It feels alive. It feels centered and rooted and harbored and moored. And your body is dancing ecstasy. Your soul is in the stillness of glory and grace, knowing that it is a beautiful and divine thing, knowing that life is beautiful and divine. So, this is what our teachers in the world, especially non human, can teach us and show us as exemplars, that we have the solution to our parching within us and all around us. It's a matter of our belief that we can access these medicines and that they will do what they've been doing for millennia. And then your invitation, Jen, was about grief.
Mm.
And grief, of course, relates to this concept of parching, because if we do not intimately acquaint ourselves with our grief and feel our grief and hold our grief and breathe our grief and release our grief, if we do not go on that journey, then we're experiencing a different kind of drought. It's a drought of grieving, where we have not grieved enough. We have not grieved in the right way. And
Mm.
so we're just accumulating the sediment of grief instead of actually saying, oh, I've been grieving a lot the last 10 years because so many people have passed away in my family. But have you been grieving? Or are you acquiring the sediment of grief and now you're actually a soul that's buried in that sediment because you haven't grieved,
Mm. Mm.
you know? And so, me personally, in the last 2 years in my family, many of the souls who are a heart of our family have changed to light, have become ancestors. Many of them were elderly when they did, in their 90s and such, and some were much younger. And my beloved sister Tawana, she changed to light and became an ancestor this summer on August 31st. So that one is very fresh, very raw, and very real. For me, what I can tell you is that this last 2 years of a very concentrated period of grieving loved ones. One, it has impacted my body and my energy, my health in very obvious ways. I would say predictable ways.
Mm.
Predictable for me because I have learned on my journey, okay, this is my body. It is a profoundly empathic, deep feeling vessel. And so I have learned since childhood how it is affected by the ripples and the waves in the ocean of life,
Yes.
by the tidal nature, the fluctuations, the ascendancy, the peaks and troughs. I've come to understand because I've been paying attention. Life has taught me, okay, this is how I get affected. I get affected in ways that are significant enough to get my attention, to
You're
get my
brilliant.
attention. You know what I
Onto
mean?
something.
The design is beyond our intelligence. Okay.
Yes.
So for me, these last 2 years have been that. They have been, okay, in our family alone, people have been dying, which means so many things. And so many of those things are divinely beautiful, and so many of those things are divinely devastating. But what we do know is it changes your family. You can't have someone die and your family is still the same. No, the family must be willing to look upon itself and say, we are experiencing change. What does this mean for us? We have all these identities personally and between us that have to do with the arrangement of living souls and living bodies and people being present in certain moments. And now that has changed. And so are we facing that? Are we acknowledging that? Are we speaking of it? Are we tending to that garden the way we would tend to our own gardens when the flowers wilt in summer or the trees drop their leaves in autumn? We make change in the way that we're tending to the parching. We water less or more. We move the plants around so they're getting more or less sun. We're doing this with our garden. Are we doing it with our family, with our community, with our nation, our society, our humanity? Are we willing to be fluid and dance with all of this? I know that in this passage in the river of grief and within my family, that I've been taught from previous experience I need to be very careful and make sure that I slow down and that I truly am present with this pain and this grief,
Mm.
that I let myself feel it, also that I let myself think about it, and that I let myself remain a river. Because if grief occurs, and we turn into hard stone because we're trying to prevent the feelings, the pain, the aching, the missing. Let me go stone. Let me turn stone as a strategy for getting through this. Then we create a jeopardy of implosion because grief is a river. It wants to run, it wants to flow, and it needs passageway. And if we make our bodies hard and tight and tense and calcified and petrified, then grief's river has nowhere to go. And that has consequence to us
Yes.
in our well being, in our kinship, in our relations, and in our servitude, and in our joy. So, how am I moving both to sustain myself, given what our human condition is we're speaking particularly of recent years, but also in general, of course. How do I sustain myself and how do I irrigate myself with soul water? And then how do I attend to grief, not just mine, but the grief that I'm experiencing empathically in the we-ness of our grief. And so, yes, I intellectually know the modalities, I know the medicines, but what creates movement in me so that I take initiative and open and dilate to the medicines and
Mm.
take them in and receive them and believe in them? Well, I do need my spiritual practices. I do need my rituals and ceremonies daily. If we just put these practices on a calendar and say, well, on my Sundays or my Mondays, that's when I'm gonna go to hot yoga and I'll do meditation and I'll go for a run. And then Wednesdays, I'll do a sauna. Then I'm gonna go get my hair and nails did on a Friday. Like this is wonderful, but we cannot calendar grief and we cannot calendar joy and we cannot calendar the practice of nourishing ourselves holistically. It needs to be as daily as is our breathing and our heart beating. Those things have a rhythm and regularity to them, and so must our nourishment of self and of the we. It needs to, I'm saying that we need to work toward a norm in which in our professional spaces and personal spaces, childhood spaces and adult spaces, there is a continuity of care that is flowing between those spaces and within those spaces. And it is being modulated, moderated, and mediated by teachers, guides, elders, kin, and ancestors. Yes?
Yes. 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 Like,
Yes.
right. I want to take that for all of us, for those listening, for those in their car, for those feeding a baby right now, for those sitting here and just crying, for those like, Dr. Jaiya, you speaking to me? Are you talking? This is my life. How you know me? Like, like because we are like not in this cheesy. We are one. We parch similarly. We, as you said, irrigate. Ooh, similarly in the ways of that I am not alone in my grief. You are not
Yeah.
alone in your grief. And although it may be different and feel different and come up, show itself differently, I get agitated, Jaiya, when I am mourning. I become irritable, especially to the people closest to me. I become moody just ever since I was a child. I would grieve animals as my father was driving the car and I would see a beloved little raccoon and I'm like sobbing. I'm stomping all day long. This isn't fair. I'm irritated. Why didn't no one stop? What did it? Like I just didn't understand and I wanted to grieve life all the time. And for me, hence my work with Sacred Rage, because for me, it would lead to this ragey place. And for me, the cousins, the siblings, the lovers of rage and grief are just constantly, and I don't think I'm alone, kind of moon and sun, like
Mhm.
mirroring and showing different aspects of each other. So as you bring up the sun, for me, it is deeply also that moon work, why I love the moon so much, because it's all of its phases, all of these levels of shedding, all of the ways that it connects to the water and my body. And so as you're talking, I kept seeing this image of land, sun, moon, wind and rain, and this thought of yes, we need more spaces and we need permission. And I'm hearing you remind us and give it to us that which is already ours, the prescription, which is already ours. That big
Yeah.
Arma and others cannot give us a damn prescription for what is already part of us and embodied with us. This is not something we can intellectualize. This is not something we can put in our calendar, as you're saying. I mean, we can try, but Yeah, like
Yeah.
that this is, we need more space to be in permission with that grief as it arises, or rage if you're little, like little Jen. Right? And
Hmm.
not that I spew it on others per se, but like be with my rage. If I need to kick this cushion, if I need to gutturally like let it out, and cave person, crouch to the floor, be with that griefy, ragey
Hmm. Hmm.
energy, embodiment of it. Then can we teach the babies? Can we teach our children? Can we teach our elder? Not teach, but I can't think of the word, but like reinstall or
Hmm.
reinvite
Hmm. Hmm.
that primal practice of being with the keening, the howling, the wailing. Sometimes I beat on my chest in ways that are like, "Ugh," and I let myself, not to harm myself, but to be with this part of me that is very primal, and try to reinsert and reconnect people to that primality. I just made up that word. I don't even know if that exists. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I just wanted to say that, like, as you were talking, this is what was coming up for me, and little me, and all these versions of me, and future me, and ancestral me. And I wonder, yeah, what are your thoughts of that? And like, Jaya, your relationship, even to this word we utilize as rage, because man, a lot of my practitioner work was working with folk who harmed,
Yeah.
in deep
Yeah.
ways, as well
Mm.
as those who were on the receiving end of this harm. And grief was often not talked about, right?
Yeah.
We talked about the behavior, but not the emotions that were coming through, and that were staunched, stopped, not allowed. And I would try to create spaces where youth in particular, all people, but like I worked a lot with children and adolescents and the youth. It's like, well, what if you felt your feelings 100%? Oh, Dr. Jen, I would, I would hurt somebody. Well, what if, there was this like big old container that we constructed for you to bleed, cry, poop it, like, to be with the messiness of this loss, and let you feel what it was like to lose mom to this system, to this drug, to this man, to this, you know, to this pain. And they would laugh usually and be like, that doesn't exist. But what if we create it together? What if we co-create it? So I'm going to stop talking. But
I received your invitation. It's already very, very rich and full of soil. So you've given me plenty. Thank you. The rage and the grief. So I was born an orphan. I was born an orphan, literally. So I was born on October 26th. 5 days later, by Halloween, I was placed in first placement. And the circumstances of beginning life that way, I'm sure had a lot to do with my truth, part of which was that throughout childhood, into adolescence, and into adulthood, I experienced and carried a lot of pain, a lot of grief, and a lot of inwardly directed rage.
mm,
Now, the pain, grief, and rage was not all about what I was personally experiencing. It was also me being a permeable soul in a world like this, and the horror and devastation that I experienced in my body and in my heart for how we treat each other on this planet and how we treat the planet itself. So as a child, I was feeling all of that. intensely, daily, all day long, with, you know, no real spiritual guidance as to what does it mean to be a child like this in a world like this, witnessing humanity in this condition that we are? What does it mean? What do I do with that? How do I care for it? Right. So this was all just what do you call that? Independent research project. My childhood was jam. It was me. It was me completely independent where you have no advisor. Your advisor is like too busy on the golf course or drinking or something, whatever. Your advisor has never been present in this. And you're just kind of winging it. You don't have any kind of committee to run things by. You don't have no drafts to show anybody and get feedback. You're just, it's completely independent research, right? And you don't even know that that's what you're doing, that you're studying and trying to figure things out. You're surviving. You're
Word.
trying to find your way through pain in that moment.
Word.
So I was very good. I became very practiced and therefore very good at harming myself with pain, grief, rage, harming myself in particular. And then what that became externally in terms of in the world of relations with others, fortunately, I had so much love in my heart that that was really the dominant expression between me and others. However, there was certainly a way in which I was trying to protect my pain, protect my heart, which was pained, protect my heart in the social realm, in the social world, living in a body like this one, which draws the reactions and responses that you and I know well in a world like this one, in a society like this one. Okay, so the way I then managed that was to just create a wall or a shell around my heart, even though I was still deeply loving. It was like, you know, too much pain in there. And so I encased it. And what I learned, what I was taught, was that this strategy might be a short term strategy, but long term, it's not something you want to invest in. You don't want to invest in that because that thing is about to blow up on you in multiple ways eventually. So I always return to this somehow, inevitably, because poetry is what I am. And at 18, the small woman, fierce soul, Nikki Giovanni, she came to my campus and she changed my life because, Jen, this goes back to your invitations, your questions. This is a woman, this is a soul who you could tell about Nikki Giovanni that this was a passionate soul like you, right? And in a woman and in a black woman, that often, of course, becomes labeled in certain ways. I would simply say that passion is one of the ways in which love breathes.
Mm.
So love is an artist, and the way it expresses itself is multitudinous, but passion is certainly one of those. And so you have children who are passionate. It doesn't mean that they are malicious or evil. It means that they are full of love. They are full of love, and maybe no one has sort of been present with them in a way that they need to help them go on their own journey of understanding how to live with that love in a world like this. And so I was introduced to this soul, Nikki Giovanni. I'm sitting there in the audience, and she's showing me what she has done in her lifetime with her loving nature in a world that can be incredibly devastating. And so she had taken the grief, the love, the pain, the trauma, the fear, all of these internal, often combustible elements of a human atmosphere, and she had transmuted them, she had alchemized them into her poetry. And Nikki Giovanni's poetry, we know, is passionate. It is deeply passionate. It is raw. It is blunt. It was like she was the old lady who didn't care. She had no more filter, but she had that in her 30s, right? She had that in her 20s, bless her heart. So this was her, and this was her poetry. And I sat there and was being washed with it. And it dissolved the granularity of my walls, my barricades, my encasing. It decimated all of that. It was like the ocean hitting a sandcastle, and the sandcastle stands no chance. And the sandcastle becomes the ocean when the ocean arrives. And she was the ocean, and she arrived. And in a way, it was love arriving to say, I know you, child, and you are in your essence love. And then what this world has done to you and brought out in you is these other elements: the pain, the hurt, the rage, the anger. And I was, like I said, very good. I had an advanced degree in harming myself with my pain. And it created a certain kind of harm, I think, relationally as well, just because people can't help but feel your internal condition, and it affects them, especially if they care about you. So here I was on this night, and she showed me. This was Nikki Giovanni simply saying, look, this is what I've done with all my stuff. And her poetry was a voice saying, I'm a woman and you can't touch that. I'm a black woman and you can't divide that. I'm a black woman and a human being and you can't do nothing about that. She was defiant. She was glorious. She was salvation. And it changed me forever. So this goes back to your invitation. What I've been doing in this particular season of personal grieving within my family, within my kinship circle, and then the human grieving, the human horror that is happening in many parts of the world, including this one. I've been doing what I have learned to do with my pain, my grief, my aching and longing, and with my love, most of all, with the rage that is simply love in pain, trying to get attention to the wounding. That's grief. I mean, that's rage. Rage is a child trying to stand on a mountaintop and say to the world, I'm hurting. Do you see my pain? Do you care? Will you come? Will you climb the mountain? Will you hold my hand? Will you bear witness? Will you help? Or will you be in full bystander effect mode? So I learned from so many different souls, including non-human kin, what was available to me and my nature, what worked for me and my nature. And like Nikki Giovanni, I suppose I've learned to transmute and alchemize and translate much of this into poetry, which means for me not necessarily words on a page, but an articulation of life itself, which an articulation that drips with the divine, that is dewy with sacredness, that is wet with holiness, that glistens with love's luminosity, articulating as music, as beauty, as song, as compassion, and determination and devotion in the way that I'm moving through the moments of every day, the way that I'm treating my thoughts, the way that I'm treating my feelings, how I'm holding all of that. How am I How am I treating my body? What am I doing with it? Where is my gaze going? Is it going to the sky and the water and the trees and the miracle of creation? Is it going to something violent? Is it going to something painful? Where is my gaze? Because our gaze is intimately rooted in and interwoven with the soul itself. The optical nerves travel not only into the brain, but into the soul. And the optical nerves also traveled into the greater soul, that is this creation. So now I'm seeing on behalf of humanity, on behalf of life itself, I am seeing by my choices, I am seeing on behalf of the collective that is creation. And so each of us is a seer, and by the choices of what we tune our gaze into, we are adding into the internal atmosphere of creation by our choice of what to gaze. If we are gazing violence, we are adding that gaze symphony into the collective soul. The poetry for me is articulation that liberates and uncages and unshackles our greater soul from silence and suffocation and sublimation and supplication and surrender to oppressive forces. Poetry for me is that sky upon which we travel to freedom.
Mm.
That's poetry. That's poetry. That's the poetry that's right in here. That's the poetry that's right in here. That's the poetry that's in how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves. So what do I do personally with this grief, with the pain, with the rage, with loss, with the human condition, with injustice? What do I do with generational trauma and wounding and dysfunction? What do I do with patriarchy and misogyny? What do I do with misogynoir? What do I do with racism and sexism and transphobia? What do I do with human myopia and cataracts? What do I do?
Come on.
I go to my go-to, which is poetry, which I find in everything. It's a matter of, am I present in it? Am I oriented to it with an intent that comes from love's assignment? Or is my motive been polluted and poisoned so that I approach these medicines in a way which renders them impotent and me frustrated because I'm not feeling any better? In other words, I can go to the ocean, but show up with such a counterproductive motive or intention for being there that I render the ocean impotent for my potential peace. You see? And if I show up to the ocean just weeping with pain and love, with an intention that I somehow gather up all of this energy and feeling so that I can be medicine and so that I can pour medicine, now the ocean becomes limitless in its potency. You see? Does this make sense?
So much sense. All the sense.
Mm.
All the sense. Thank you for there's no way to put this in a little little pin, but little dot. But what comes up is this: the Course in Miracles thing. Like, I can choose to see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that affirmation of like, okay, we ain't gonna tussle with you to see it different, but like, we can choose again and again and again to see things differently and to see our pain differently, our circumstances, the pain in the world, the ocean. Thank you for that reminder as a being that can sometimes go to the hardening. I don't allow it for that long anymore. As you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
as a being, as a little sensitive kid that's probably can match your sensitive little one in there, or the
Mm-hmm.
one that was harden on up like a little armadillo.
Yep.
and sometimes still can, like a little armadillo,
I
like,
love
you know, and can go to beautiful places that are natural and free all around us. Be like, and do this, this little arm cross, can't see me. There's even a little old school video camera. I was born in 78. So, like, a little video camera of me not wanting to do something. I don't remember who knows what it was as a little one. And I'm with my pigtails running around a big old oak tree in a park in New Jersey until I tired myself out. And they're recording this. And I'm, no. And running around and around like 15 minutes. That little one, that little sensitive, learn to be hardened one. And I imagine that if you're listening, you can some level of we can identify with that. Thank you for the reminder that we can go back to spaces that naturally are just healing and giving, that are natural watering holes, spiritually, so soul level watering holes, whether the ocean, the river, bogs, ponds, even a puddle. Shoot, like that we can find the beauty in them, but I can also think of all those corners and places in my mind where it was right in front of me and I just couldn't maybe have the courage to let myself in that moment
That's right. That's right.
open and melt to receive that medicine. And I don't know, I'm hearing this call to action that you're giving us, that like what Sister Nikki did for you in that moment was give you that permission to love, to embody the love that you already were, that you already are, to embody that sensitivity and recycle that
Yes.
into your poetry.
Yes.
I don't know, like, I don't even know if I'm doing that justice, Brother Jai. I don't even know if I'm doing that justice but I'm hearing like this amazing, great pouring into you and filtering and recycling, this osmosis process, and you being like, oh yeah, it's love letter to poetry, and how you walk and how you be and how you relate. There is nothing inauthentic about you and your mission and your walk, this anointing that your ancestors have do and have poured into you, this orphaning. It's all a design to connect you further into your root, my brother, further into your ministry, further into your calling, to continue to breathe life into every single one of us. Your words touch us and can imbue in us a level of energetic prosperity, I would dare say. This energetic, give me a second, soul rehydration and permission to deeply be with all that is every single one of us. In our imperfections, it is perfection. In all the things we have been taught by these systems, arrangements, and structures, that is like, oh, you got to change that, or that ain't right, or that's too big, or that's too small, or that's too loud, or passionate, unruly. Like you, all aspects and layers and levels and etheric templates of you, I believe, my brother, bring this level of you are right just as you are. I feel like you are both grandmother and auntie and baba and cuzzo, and you, thank you, and all those iterations of, I want to say, mother tucking you with respect.
Yeah. Wow. What an honor. Bless you, Jen. I mean, you see, you say you were wondering if you do justice, you do more than justice. It's because you yourself are such a sensitive soul, and you yourself are such a poet. Language is yours. Language has given itself to you. You've been endowed with language, and so you understand the poetry, you comprehend it, the poetry of life, and you comprehend the sensationality of a sensitive life. And so you see me and you honor me by returning the reflection that you are witnessing in the mirror, returning it to me. Thank you. This nourishes me, and of course, to be seen as a kind of sealant
Mm,
in the cracks of the desiccated, parched soul.
mm,
To be seen truly does this. It seals those cracks. It binds up the crevasse.
mm.
Bless you.
Thank you. Bless you. Thank you for your water. Thank you for
Mm.
your container, your pitcher, all the ways you do it. May you continue to I just keep hearing continue. This like beautiful, like resonating, like whatever you need to do. And I mean this, if there's any way that I and others can pour into you or hold space for you. And thank you for showing up in the midst of the grief and the grieving. Thank you to your dear sister.
Mm.
Thank you um, to all the people that are not earthside right now in your life for all the ways that they lived and at the ways that they poured into you and this earth and other people. Thank you to your ancestors, including land and sun. And I feel like I don't know how to, there is no wrap up to this conversation because we keep going, and
It's
we'll need to use
it's
the
a
restroom and
yeah.
eat and and my beloved team, Dribble and Brenna, they'll probably we need to care for this vessel as well. But as you move forward and traverse these deserts and valleys and peaks of grief, know that I have no doubt that there are people not just praying, but like energetically soul level pouring into you. And may you continue to receive that in big and small and energetic and tangible ass ways. May you receive the support as you traverse this Greece terrain, because whew, she is deep. And um again, thank you doesn't feel like enough, but thank you for simply being. Thank you. Even if you didn't give a dang ass thing, again, thank you for all the ways that you have given and do give by simply being. Um, and so I would love for you to have the last, however you want to close us out, or however anything you'd like to leave the people with, the children, feed the children, honey. There's anything
Yeah.
you might want to say. So there's a two-part to this. First, um, like more practical, tangible way. I mean, I don't know who hasn't heard about the Dr. Jaiya John, but just in case folks are like, oh, how do I find you? Where do I go? Anything that is new that is popping out that you might want to direct folks to. So that in a tangible way, what might some of those things be? And never fear, folks, we will put all of that in the show notes so that it is readily available, as well as Dr. Jaiya John's podcast and socials and things of that nature. That will all be in the show notes. And then the second component to that, if there's any not last, but any things you want to say.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you again. Bless you, Jen. Thank you so much. The word, yes, as you say, English can be very limiting, and just the word thank you, that phrase feels shallow sometimes. Well, we're always either birthing or choosing not to birth, but as long as we're alive, something is alive in us that wants to be in the world. This is the nature of our design. And so we are either, you know, conceiving, gestating, birthing, or we're holding back that process, and that has consequence to us and to the larger collective. So I'm trying to do my best each day to be open to these birth processes, these gestational processes, and the books are part of that. And I have a new book out, Wildflowers, Praying at Midnight, and I am thankful as always to have that in the world. That's medicine words that really are harvested from the last year of what's come through me as I bear witness to this world, this humanity, and to my own journey. And again, in the book, as in many of the books like Freedom, these are incantations. These are prayers and summonings trying to bring us back to the fire and bring us back to ourselves as we fathom an incredible, really incredible time to be alive on earth.
Mm.
And so Wildflowers Praying at Midnight is one of the books. And folks, you can learn about all of the medicine books at my website at jaiyajohn.com. And really everything is there. I've tried to make that the what do you call it, the watering hole for all aspects of the work. So you can learn about the podcast there. I'm sharing more in-depth writing. I'm in Substack, and you can go to my website to get to that as well. The podcast you mentioned, where, I've sort of been on pause. That's one of the ways in which I have been honoring my grieving this year, is to be on pause for a few months with the podcast, and hope to really bring that back into flow. I've been offering, last year into the first parts of this year, phone sessions one on one, and again, place that on pause for a few months, and I'm stepping back into that gently. Um, Out on the, if I am out in the world with the poetry, I would love to see any of you. I would truly be honored and blessed to meet any of you and to share in the harvesting and the feasting with any of you if I happen to be in your part of the world. If you'd like me to come to your part of the world, you can also reach out to me through my website and dream with me. Dream it into being, as the Aboriginal brothers and sisters of ours um, down under would say. Like, let's dream ourselves to each other. Let's make these reunions and communions happen by will of our spiritual force. So I can't really think of whatever else is going on. I'm just always pouring and always being poured into, and then it becomes these things. And I'm moving the literature work from book form into film form and theater form, so stage and screen and that. So I'm on that journey as well, and excited for that and thankful. And then some breath to share with you before we part for the moment. Just, Jen, you used a word a few times that I feel is vital in all of this, and that word is permission. The last couple of years, and I know this is providence, this is purposeful, even as so much dying has happened, so much transitioning has happened, and so much grief has come from that. I've also noticed in a very salient way, younger people essentially doing this with me all around the world, and calling me in as Baba. And you said something beautiful to me, Jen, just a moment ago, when you said that you're experiencing me in all of these ways, multitudinous, as grandma, grandmother, and this and that. I can't even remember all that you said. And thank you for that, because it is true. And there is one of my spiritual children in South Africa, and she shared with me a few months ago how she experiences me as this, in South African culture, it's this ancestral being who is really beyond gender. And they refer to this being as Gogo, this ancestor spirit, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother. the baobab tree, the elder, the oracle, the sage, the guide, the loving guide. And I have felt myself called into this role in a very noticeable, articulate, linguistic, loving way by several people around the world. And so I want to say that in that spirit of being Gogo, being Baba, being the ancestor really, because we all inhabit that even while we're still here. The ancestor that we are is already alive in us and is shaping and maturing and marinating and emerging. And I am saying as ancestor, as Gogo, as Baba, the medicine is here in us. It is here for us. It is a matter of permission. And the permission need not come from our governments. It need not come from our parents, from our friends, from our employers. It need not come from our societies. Permission need, though, come from us. It needs to come from the sovereignty of the soul. When we permit the medicine to flow, the medicine flows. It is immediate. It is instantaneous. It is the alchemy of translucent, diaphanous dreaming, all of creation just dreaming itself alive. We are life dreaming of being alive. And so all we need to do is permit ourselves and one another to be free. And it is so. Ashe, Aho, Amen. It is so. So let us begin. Come beat this drum.
Thank you, Jaiya. Thank you so much. And everything that thank you means in all iterations. Thank you for your medicine. And thank you for spreading it and gently touching the hearts of other people so that their medicine pouch, their medicine flowers can come back alive. From Root to Bone is a podcast from Decolonizing Therapy. It is hosted by me, Dr. Jen Mullen. Our producer is Tribble at Ash Tribble Incorporated. Original music by Laura Burke and cover art by Madre Shell. Don't forget to find us on Instagram at Decolonizing Therapy and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Decolonizing Therapy, for the full video version of each episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your people and leave us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps people find us. For more info about Decolonizing Therapy, visit our website, www.decolonizingtherapy.com. Be well.